I know it's something that's being considered, but there isn't a decision that's been communicated to me yet.
The thinking on that is basically because of the staffing shortages. Is it your way of addressing that?
No, it's because of the accuracy and the amount of lateral flow tests that effectively, what we were using PCR tests often for was to confirm whether your lateral flow test, whether it was correct or not. And actually the positivity rates are so high that most people are getting very good results from their lateral flow tests.
What do you think about the idea that the NHS Confederation has put forward, with certain caveats, asking if we can look at reducing isolation further down to 5 days?
Yes, and that's obviously a reasonable question to ask at this point in time. And it has been looked at and considered by the scientists. But when they looked at it, they really look at what they think is, safe in terms of keeping the infection down to a minimum as much as we possibly can, or reinfection. So that's what they've come up with, the results, which is the 6 and 7 day lateral flow tests. And as far as I'm aware, there's no immediate plans to change that.
I mean, far from keeping infection rates down, we are now at yet another day of extremely high numbers, and actually yet another record of more than 218,000 new daily infections recorded yesterday. Of course, England decided not to bring in any more curbs after Christmas. What we are seeing is partly a consequence of that, isn't it? And yet the Prime Minister says he's confident that England can ride out this wave without new restrictions.
Well, we did bring in measures very quickly when we first discovered Omicron. First of all, we put in controls at the border. Then, obviously, we introduced Plan B. And most importantly, we turbo boosted our booster vaccination programme and brought forward the date by a whole month when every eligible adult could get the booster programme. And we also have been working with the NHS colleagues to make sure that we have a lot of contingency in place as well.
Look at the picture in hospitals right now. Look at the picture for hospitals in one particular area, Greater Manchester, where 17 hospitals are now pausing non-urgent care. That is surgery as well as appointments. If you were scheduled to have a hip replacement or cataract surgery, those are all the kinds of things for which patients will now have no new date. They don't know how long they're going to have to wait for things like that. One
of the things that we have in place, and this is actually contingency plans that are in place during every winter, is we often slow down certain electives if there is additional pressure on particular hospital trusts.
You wanted the NHS to be dealing with COVID and everything else, didn't you? Not least because of there being a backlog. And it's clear that it's not able to do that to the extent that it would like.
Well, that's obviously what we want, but it's also unreasonable in the face of Omicron to expect everything to remain the same. Of course, what we do is we have these contingency plans in place where people can call for mutual aid, or they can call for more volunteers, they can call for military support if they need, and also they can look at their service.
It's a short term. This is almost every hospital in a huge area where millions of people live saying we are having to suspend everything that's not urgent.
For a short period of time, I'm sure that will be the case.
Except we don't know how long it is.
And what we do with all of these contingency plans, that is part of the contingency arrangements. It happens every winter. Every winter, this is something that happens many times. Now, of course, what is worse this year is we do know that we have a massive backlog, and we are building new surgical hubs and new diagnostic hubs to be able to deal with that as well. But right now, it is one of the things. If we have emergencies due to a lot of admissions at A&E, then that is one of the measures that hospital trusts will look at. But of course, we want everybody to be able to get their elective surgery as soon as we possibly can. And that is a huge focus and a huge investment, actually, that we've put in place to make sure that we can catch up with that backlog.
It would be much better for hospitals, wouldn't it? Much easier for them if they weren't having to deal with people who were unvaccinated, who'd never had any vaccinations at all. What's your view of people who are in that position who've taken that stance without a compelling reason?
Well, we would urge everybody, please, to get the vaccination.
I know you would. What's your view of those? What's your view of those who haven't?
Well, it works. It clearly works. You can see now the Prime Minister gave some quite stark figures yesterday about the amount of people who were unvaccinated and the amount that didn't have a booster, and the quantity of people that were in ICU.
So what is your view of people who haven't been vaccinated at all? President Macron is saying it's time to hassle them.
Well, we've been encouraging people all along, but I think now is the time for people to. There's 2 million appointments this week. Come forward. Today's the day for you to make that decision. There's no point now in thinking that this is not going to impact you. It will impact you. If you get Omicron and you end up in that situation, if you're unvaccinated, the outcomes are worse for you.
Tell me why you're hesitant about essentially being tough on people who are unvaccinated. What's the reason for that?
I'm not hesitant at all about being tough on people.
But I asked you what your view was, and
they should come forward. They should come forward.
Are you disturbed by those who haven't?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's absolutely. I mean, I find it hard to understand actually why people wouldn't come forward. I mean, some people are just very nervous of change or new things. But right now, billions of people around the world have taken this vaccine, and it is working. I mean, everybody says it's working. The hospital figures show it's working. So what we would say is it's very convenient now. It's very easy. Lots of people have had it. You're not going to be at the front of the first pioneers or whatever. Now's the time for you to come forward and get your jab.
Gillian Keegan, thank you.